and educate people from all walks of life on the beauty, legacy, and opportunity of Africa's 54 nations. And it's that time once again when African Focus is teaming up with KBLA Talk 1580 for our 8th annual African Focus Trailblazers Tour. Travel with us in 2026 when we're headed to the southern African nations of Zambia and Botswana for a historical, cultural, and vacation tour led by me, Dominique DePrima, Cultural Ambassador for African Focus Incorporated. Enjoy luxurious accommodations, conscious fellow travelers, shopping, adventures, cultural tours, wildlife safaris, and a giant waterfall, one of the world's 7 wonders, along with a chance to be of service at an orphanage on the continent. Become an AFI trailblazer by exploring the motherland with a nonprofit organization that has members in Africa and America to help roll out the red carpet for you, and together we'll make a difference and have fun doing it. For more information, visit africanfocus.org or call 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300 or africanfocus.org. Whether it's stateside or exploring the diaspora, we're with you every step of the way. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Come go with us.
Celebrate good times, come on!
KBLA Talk 1580 congratulates Malik Books on celebrating 35 years in business.
It's a celebration.
Malik Books proudly houses one of the largest African American and diverse children's books in the nation. This is the perfect time to pick up holiday reads, meaningful gifts, and to support literacy in our community. For 35 years, Malik Books has stood strong in the Black Book Revolution, uplifting stories that heal, inspire, and transform, one reader at a time. Change your thoughts, change your life. Books are the gift that keeps giving. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, congratulations to Malik Books on 35 years of culture, pride, and community.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Moving Mountain Mondays and the Faith Not to Fall with Madam President Teresa Hord Owens, the president of the Disciples of Christ Church in both the United States and Canada. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Oh, thank you, my brother. It's always good to be here.
Madam President, I want to set our listeners up for a moment with just a little insight on who Howard Thurman was. Howard Thurman is considered by many African-American theologians, but lots of theologians around the world, as one of the most insightful, reflective theologians, biblical scholars of all time. Martin Luther King Jr. used to carry a book in his pocket and on his person at all times called Jesus and the Disinherited, an interpretation. How Jesus, in Thurman's mind, was positioned as a person of color against the backdrop of the Roman Empire, whose movement speaks to the oppressed and whose peoples, and he had a special message for peoples whose backs are against the wall. He spent time with Mohandas K. Gandhi in India. Martin Luther King Jr. never met Gandhi. The African-American connection to Gandhi came through Howard Thurman. And Dr. King was particularly impressed with Gandhi's nonviolent philosophy as not only a tactic, but as a way of life, because it established for him the boundaries by which a Christian must engage direct activism, not only in our country, the bus boycotts, the sanitation strikes, but also in our world, that we are duty bound to understand that the means that we live do not justify the ends. Dr. King, Gandhi, Howard Thurman essentially argued that the end that we seek is pre-existent in the means as Christians, meaning we have to give some thought to how we want to approach other people, how we approach our neighbors in order to achieve a desired end, a higher form of living, a community of neighbors, of people who look out for each other. And I was wondering when the break came, given that you're on sabbatical and you've been giving some reflection to Howard Thurman during the season, that he is a great place to start for a centering moment for people who are off kilter right now, or they haven't given any reflection to the centering moment. And since on sabbatical, you are obviously in a position to give some reflection to Thurman's work. I'm hoping that you will take your time and share with us your insights in this season.
Oh wow! Thanks for just even sort of piquing my thoughts on the whole topic of Howard Thurman. I think Howard Thurman is one of perhaps the only sort of Black theologian, historian, and scholar, maybe even the first where people applied the term mystic to him. And I think we see that often as there's some folks that think anything that where you use the word mystic or even meditation or deep thinking was somehow new age, sort of not of God, a little too kind of thing. But he legitimized, I think, in many ways for us, this notion of deep inner life. The African American Christian community is well known for its expressiveness, right, and its energy and its explosive, kinds of worship and shouting and dancing and all of those elements that we carry with us from traditional African religions that have survived the voyage across the Atlantic and hundreds of years of slavery and even years still of semi-slavery and oppression. But Howard Thurman reminds us that there is something necessary as well as valuable of getting to God in this very deep and inner kind of way and spending time with that, be it through nature, be it through your own quiet, be it through studying text and poetry. I mean, he was a poet. He loved language. He loved words. He had a great sense of humor. Even in his written sermons, you can see his sense of humor, and you can just imagine him. I never got to hear him live, right, or be in the same room. I've seen some recordings and videos, but he was a personable person. And I think in these days and times when people are seeking for something that brings them peace and wholeness, and I think we find it really in coming to grips and getting in touch. And I even say in my own book, everything begins with what we believe about God. And I think Thurman would agree with me that getting to that place where you understand sort of the bigness and somehow the sovereignty and the power of a God who is bigger than you are is sort of the beginning of even understanding your own power and your own place and acceptance in the world. His understanding of Jesus's connection with the least, last, and the lost sort of foreshadows the beginnings of Black liberation theology when James Cone asked the question after King's assassination, can I be Black and Christian? King did all the right things. King said he was following the gospel of Jesus Christ, and look what happened to him. Is it possible? And Cone finds that disinherited voice that Thurman speaks of in Luke 4, where Jesus says, this is the mission I have, to minister to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to set at liberty the captive, and to declare the acceptable year of the Lord. And so Cone makes a leap to say, if that's who Jesus is with, Jesus must be with me. And
Mhm.
Jesus must be, if not ontologically Black, then Jesus must have a Blackness. He must identify with who I am because he identifies with people who are like me. And so Thurman doesn't just allow us to stay in the Holy of Holies. He says, no, there's work to do, but you're not going to be strong enough to do the work unless you spend time building up your inner spirit and your inner person, and you understand why it is that you're doing the work. And we see King's own practice in that. I've been carrying Walter Brueggemann's The Prophetic Imagination,
Mm.
almost in homage to King's practice of carrying Jesus and the Disinherited. And maybe I'll switch out this coming year to Jesus and the Disinherited. But it was just the very idea that as a leader dealing with a lot of things, trying to focus and foment a lot of change and often getting resistance to a lot of things, King knew he had to have something in the inside to keep him going. And we all know that. The Black church has always understood that. We got to have something on the inside to keep us going. And the church has been that place that has fed us, that has helped us prepare for jobs, that has built schools for us when our own local schools were inadequate. The church has often been an economic engine in the community, and it's all been grounded on these teachings of Jesus. And I think sometimes we forget that the inner must be there strongly first, and it's not just the Sunday school stories. It's some kind of what does it say? It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer, not my mother, not my father, but it's
Mm.
me.
Mm.
It's like you got to get there for yourself as well. Mama prayed, daddy prayed, grandma prayed. And I even tried to share these ideas cross-culturally in Hispanic and Asian and white communities. And I find that they have real resonance. And they look to the history of Black people and our faith in this God who can do anything, and our faith in Jesus' affiliation with the downtrodden, the oppressed, to say, yes, that God, that Jesus is for me and is with me.
I find that particularly moving testimony, because when we think about Thurman and we think about King and we think about this season of doing the work, Howard Thurman talks about when the angels are stilled,
Still.
when the music has stopped, when the lights are no longer in the sky, the work of Christmas begins. I'm not quoting the entire sermon, if you will, or
Mhm.
Paul directly, but it's in that general space. And so when I think about those of us who live a life who will do almost anything to achieve an end, means justifies the end. We will do almost anything. And then I think about the Negro Christian experience through the eyes of Thurman and Cone and Dr. King, and the interwoven nature of how with our faith comes a truth that's tied to existential threat and to the reality of what it means to be Black, and practicing this faith in this space, and how over
Mhm.
time it becomes a resilience and a persistence. And to use another example, some folk, and I'm going to say it, most folk trapped in oppressive systems or are oppressors in an oppressive system,
Mhm.
they pray on Sunday ritually, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday. I mean, there is nothing to do with what they did on Sunday has anything to do with Monday through Saturday. I mean, they kick behind. But for the Negro, we have interwoven our faith. We've it's a hair weave. It is
Yeah.
it's a connection of existential reality plus faith, plus we've been lynched, plus we've had to be resurrected, plus we've had to make a way out of no way. And we bring
Mhm.
all of that to the table when we interpret reality.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's
Y-
where I
yeah.
see third. I'm sorry, Terry.
Oh, no, 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 no. I'm just thinking about the many times in which I have struggled to help white people understand the power of the cross in Black theology, or even in a traditional Black church, that we sing songs about the blood. And, in sort of postmodern theology, it's sort of become passé to think about Jesus's death as an atonement. And it's such a nasty and gory thing to think that God sacrifices God's son and blah, blah, blah. And Cone talks about this in the cross and the lynching tree. And this is where, we build theology partly out of our context. You can't tell me my theology is bad theology when you don't know my context. Black folks can identify with the idea of this beaten and battered Jesus because they literally had and knew and saw people who were beaten and battered during slavery, during Jim Crow, during the 20s and 30s and even 50s and 60s, when Black people, and even later, Black people still being lynched and killed. The idea that our bodies were under attack. And so I have really tried to argue with some of my white and other non-Black friends, and even some Black folks sometimes, to say, let's not get rid of this idea of suffering and try to whitewash it to say, oh, and while faith doesn't demand suffering, it is in the suffering. Jesus says, if they attack me, they're going to attack you. If you're trying to do the right thing in a world that's not ordered morally and even theologically, I don't care what your faith tradition is, there will be people who will attack that, because individually the human spirit is a selfish spirit that has to be tamed by the power of understanding the community, that there's, as we were taught in my house, there's other people in the house. You're not the only person in the house. I actually preached a sermon at a white church in Atlanta for one of their anniversaries, asking them to remember there are other people in the house. They sit in this beautiful, grand building in downtown Atlanta, affluent white congregation. But I said, your community is beyond these walls. There are other people in the house. And we've got to, I'm really concerned when people try to take the suffering remembrance of, or even the idea that, Jesus was born to an unwed teenage mother. Joseph was told, you have the right to kill this woman, or at the very least, divorce her. So, there's so much that we can get out of that helps us understand God has given us ways and tools. We got to get close to that interiority, though.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is The Faith Not the Fall. This is our Christmas series, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. More when we come forward with Reverend Teresa Hord Owens on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former Buccaneer Antonio Brown, who was Black, appeared in court via Zoom for his attempted murder case. His lawyer is seeking dismissal after a May shooting where a victim says a bullet grazed his neck.
I have had the benefit of looking through all the discovery, which the original prosecutor told me was primarily videos. So I've been able to look through those videos and study them. And that was why I filed my motion to dismiss based on stand your ground.
A judge will hear the motion in April, with trial likely before year's end. Brown faces up to 30 years if convicted. New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani will be sworn in at midnight by Black New York Attorney General Letitia James, calling it the start of a new era. Senator Bernie Sanders will lead his public swearing in on January 1st, praising Mamdani's bold progressive leadership. And Georgia Power and the Atlantic Hawks are teaming up again for their HBCU Pathways program, offering paid internships to support HBU students in Georgia. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers move closer to qualifying for the AFC playoffs with their 34-17 win at Dallas Sunday. If Indianapolis loses at home tonight to Houston, the Chargers are in. If Indianapolis wins tonight, the Chargers can lock up a playoff spot next Sunday with a win over Houston at SoFi Stadium. Impressive day for Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, 23 or 29 for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Herbert ran 1 yard for another TD. The Chargers have won 4 straight. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua was hit with a $25,000 fine by the NFL for making critical comments about the referees. Nacua made the comments during a live stream podcast last week. New UCLA football coach Bob Chesney is officially on the clock. Chesney's 2-year run at James Madison ended Saturday with their loss at Oregon in the first round of the college football playoffs. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
1 year ago, flames tore through Altadena and Eaton Canyon, changing lives forever. From the ashes, can a beloved community rise stronger? Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, host of First Things First, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., here on KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the 1-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong Black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that Black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
Jesse Jackson Jr. The Jesse Jackson Show. Moving Mountain Mondays at the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Owens, General Minister and President, Disciples of Christ Church. She is our regular contributor on Mondays, and this is our Christmas edition. Madam President, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you so much. It's always great to be here.
Madam President, can I pick up on this conversation we were having just before the break? In 1976, my parents introduced me to a nephew of Walter Payton. His name was Sean Payton. And Sean was attending a military school in Rolling Prairie, Indiana. And I went out to visit Sean, and man, they were having so much fun. I told my mother that I'd love to go to Le Mans Military Academy. At the time, I was attending John J. Pershing Elementary School in Chicago. But, you know, I didn't have a problem going an hour and 15 minutes outside of Chicago to military school. I was good with that. I didn't do anything wrong, but it was cool. But it was a Catholic military school. Very different than just any old military school with a military emphasis. And when Pope Paul VI died in 1976, I had a real crisis of faith. Because, you know, everybody, my Mexican classmates, my white male classmates, everybody crying, everybody's head is all low. We're in chapel all day. You know, Father, Holy Spirit, we kneeling at the cross and praying for the Pope, and Holy Father who's gone. I had a real crisis of faith because the Pope had died. Then they appointed, the cardinals came together in the clave and appointed Pope John Paul I. And that was exciting to watch the ceremonies and the process by which the pontificate transferred from one pope to the next pope. And I was excited. My faith was restored when the pope was anew. The power of Jesus had been transferred from one pope to the next pope. We're going to be all right. Then, 33 days later,
He died.
one of my Mexican friends came up to me and said, "The Pope is dead." The Pope, I said, "No, he died about a month ago. You catch a little late." No, the Pope died again. And I had another crisis of faith. And then, of course, for most of my life, John Paul II would succeed John Paul I, which was the Pope of the Cold War. Now, I say that because when I used to go to Catholic church, Madam President, and I want our listeners to hear this really clear, because it's different between the Negro experience and what I experienced in my short tenure as a Catholic. Whenever you go to a Catholic church, Jesus is on the cross.
On the cross, yeah.
He is the center of the nave or any service. Jesus, helpless on the cross. But when you go to a Black church, there is no Jesus on the cross. The cross may be present. I remember when it was present. Now we don't even have cross present, but Jesus is not on the cross, because the emphasis of our liberation story is that Jesus rose above circumstance. Help us right here, Madam President, on the significance.
Oh my goodness. I didn't go to a Catholic school, but I've certainly had Catholic friends, and there was maybe I think it was last year that we have a Council of General Ministries, the ministries that serve our church-wide ministries. Those executives and I have a retreat every year, and we went to a Catholic retreat place in northern Indiana, and we wanted to go into the chapel and take a group photo before we left. And we're a very integrated group, mostly. Of the 14 or 15 people in this group, I would say a third of them are Black, including me. One Hispanic and one Asian in that mix. We wanted to take a picture in the chapel, and all of a sudden we were up in the chancel area, and all of a sudden 2 priests came flying down the aisles. saying, no, 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 no pictures. We must remove the crucifix. And so the idea was no pictures could be taken in the space when Jesus was present, because there is this sense that he is somehow that image of Jesus on the cross is the literal presence of God. And we had some conversation. We said, oh, no, 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 we don't, we didn't want to disturb their peace in order to take a picture. We're like, we'll go outside.
If Jesus is here, we want him in the photo.
Yeah, we were good with that, right? We were good with that. But we had some interesting conversations. We're like, Jesus rose and Jesus rose again. And so he can't, there's something that conflicts for me with the very idea of the resurrection when you keep Jesus on the cross. And I don't think you can keep Jesus on the cross. And I'll allow people to disagree, and everybody makes their own sense of who God is and how you get to God. But for me, it flies in the face of if there's no, Paul said, if Jesus isn't resurrected, our faith is in vain. There's no story without the resurrection. But it's and that's victory that many people who have understood the oppression. In Korea, gospel music is huge in Korea, South Korea, because they relate to the story of overcoming that goes throughout most gospel music.
Yes.
Because of their occupation by Japan, right? They understand all of these stories. I always say, gospel music has a particular lyrical hook. It's like trouble, 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 but God, hallelujah. There's always trouble, something we're overcoming, but God, and then you get to rejoice. And if you're doing a sermon, Frank Thomas writes, if you don't get to the point where you can say hallelujah, you haven't really preached in the Black church. You can't just lay down some sort of beautiful poetic exegesis of a text without telling the story that gets us to the hallelujah. And I think a lot of cultures are learning, once they start to listen to the substance that's a part of the Black church. It's not just running and shouting and dancing and have a good time. We did pray so long yesterday at Salem, and I hadn't been out physically. I had to take a nap when I got home. I was that worn out. And church can be that, but that's after the pastor, though, had preached this really powerful sermon that got us through the struggle to the point of resilience and reminding us of the victory, and getting us, to that moment. And that for me is so important. So to see Jesus on the cross, you're depriving me of the victory. And I can't think anything bad about you, but give me the victory, please.
In addition to him being on the cross, when I was at the seminary, I know our time draws near before we come forward, I actually studied the various cultural forms within which Jesus presents himself in China, in Asian countries. If you Google it, you'll find an Asian Jesus. If you Google some African Christian systems and sects, you'll see an African Jesus. In Latin America, Jesus takes on a Latin American hue and form. Only the Negro in America is still genuflecting to a white Jesus. We'll talk about that for a few minutes when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580, more with the General President of the Disciples of Christ, Terry Hord Owens, when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of a utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
December deal drops at Lowe's are wrapping up, but there's still time to snag something worth bragging about. Get up to 40% off select major appliances, and members save an additional $100 on a new and exclusive Samsung French door refrigerator, now just $18.99. Need new tools? Select tools and accessories are up to 45% off this week. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/24. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for details.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah, breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is our Christmas edition. We are live on KBLA today and live on KBLA tomorrow, but we will be off for the balance of the week until next Monday as we commemorate and celebrate with our own families the holiday season. And so today is our live program with none other than the President and General Minister of the Disciples of Christ, Reverend Terry Hord Owens. Reverend Owens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, my brother, and Merry Christmas to you and to your family. So glad to hear that your dad is home for the holidays. That's great news.
Thank you so very much for that. On tomorrow, Congressman Bobby Scott of Virginia will be our very special guest at 3 p.m. PST. We expect by then to have a decision in the Robinson versus Calais case, while we talk about it dividing the Congressional Black Caucus from 62 current members to 30, maybe as soon as next year. We've not seen a challenge to the Voting Rights Act quite like we are going to see in the Calais case. If in fact they strike down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, it could actually throw midterm elections into a significant quandary, depending upon how quickly the court seeks the implementation of any conservative and devastating decision. Barbara Arnwine was on our program last week, and she said as many as 189 Black state legislators, not even congressmen, the state legislators could lose their seats, and Republicans could gain as many as 200 state legislators throughout our country. So we are on Voting Rights Act watch here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Madam President, I know that this is the final segment of our show before the most important season in Christianity. And before your word of hope, I'd like your thoughts on the parallels, if you will, the immigrant experience of Jesus of Nazareth and the history really of this thing that immigrants and refugees go through and why it is so critical and so important and so central to the ministry.
I think I mentioned last week that I've seen stories about a lot of churches actually transforming their traditional nativity scenes into pictures that reflect maybe, I saw one where instead of a manger filled with hay, the manger was an empty tire, and the creche or the manger was surrounded by barbed wire, right, and chain link fencing, etc. And one where the nativity is empty because it says Jesus there, he's in hiding from ICE because Jesus is an immigrant. When Jesus was born, Herod at the time had issued a decree that all male children under the age of 2 were to be killed. This was a way of getting back at the prophecy that the Messiah was going to be born in Bethlehem, etc. So Jesus and his family, his parents, like so many other people who come to this country to fight oppression and famine and genocide in their home countries, went to Egypt for safety and security. And one of the things that we know and understand is that they lived there for a few years, even before they came back to Nazareth. But just like so many people who flee war and famine, genocide and oppression, Jesus and his parents had to move in order to save his life. People do not cross
KBLA
oceans
15.
in small boats. People do not go through deserts, literally taking their lives in their hands and risking the lives of their children for a fun spree to the U.S. People come because their very lives are in danger, because they cannot safely live or they cannot feed their families. They are afraid of war. They are afraid of so many things, of corruption that may attack their particular family. So we have to remember that Jesus left because his life was in danger. It wasn't just we'll just move to Egypt. And immigrant people who come to the United States have come here, with the exception of Black folks, of course. We're not immigrants. People have immigrated here from the Caribbean and from the African continent. But those of us who are descendants of African slaves are here because our ancestors were brought here. But Jesus had to flee for his life. And we have to remember that's the immigrant experience. They are fleeing for their lives, seeking safety and sustenance and prosperity. And how can we deny them that?
Madam President, a word of hope.
This this is the reason for the season. One of my favorite Advent passages is in the Old Testament, and most people, even if you're not Christian, even if you don't know where it's from, but Isaiah 11, it's what's called the peaceable kingdom, and it's a picture of the lion laying down with the lamb, and sort of all these animals just lying down quietly together. And the idea is that, we will study war no more. The prophets painted this picture of what the Messiah would be like, his characteristics, that he would judge not with what his eyes saw or what his ears hear, but with prosperity. He would judge the poor. And there's this beautiful phrase that says, there will be no hurt or harm in all my holy mountain, meaning that the world that is possible because the Messiah has come, because Jesus has come, is the one the prophets painted. It talks about that cow eating hay with the oxen, or straw with the oxen, or the lion. I'm sorry, it's the ox and the lion. The lion eating straw with the ox. Ox eat straw, lions don't. And so why are these two natural enemies? Why is one eating food that the other eats that they wouldn't normally eat? To me, it's another image of this kind of brotherhood or sisterhood or a world that's possible, where there's peace, where we can eat and share things about each other that we may not like, but we do it out of respect. So for me, this season reminds me that because Jesus has come, it's not enough to just celebrate the baby in the manger, but this baby grew up and did some major work. And our lives need to look a lot like that in order to create that society. But I believe that society is possible if, in fact, we take this Jesus seriously. If you're Jewish or Hindu or Muslim, Jews are studying Hanukkah, if you take that seriously, the world that we dream of is possible if we do our work.
Madam President, how can we support your work?
Well, you can support my book, Staying at the Table, is going to be available on all platforms, Amazon and Barnes & Noble, on January 6th. It's called Staying at the Table. And again, you can get it on Amazon as of January 6th, or you can get it at chalicepress.com. If you want to learn more about the Disciples, you can go to disciples.org. You can search for me and find information about me and my staff. But disciples.org gives you a lot of information about the work that we do, 3,000 congregations across the U.S. and Canada, and doing ministry that literally reaches around the world. So thank you. And Merry Christmas. And may you and your family and loved ones experience peace and joy this season.
Madam President, thank you very much for those well wishes. And those wishes are echoed from our family at KBLA to all of you, and certainly to you, Madam President, for the leadership that you continue to show during this faithful season. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow on Tenacious Tuesday with Barbara Arnwine and Congressman Bobby Scott. More we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton.